The following Encore episode of Probably True Solar Stories is dedicated to all of the people who'd like to go solar but can't, and to all of the honest solar salespeople who take the time to explain why. On the next episode of Probably True Solar Stories, a well-meaning senior citizen is determined to haggle for a solar system that a well-meaning solar salesperson refuses to sell to her. How will they find the solar win-win? Find out on the next episode of Probably True Solar Stories. It's Probably True Solar Stories. I'm your host, Tor Solar Fred Valenza. This first season has had a lot of different genres, but I think this episode is closer to a could-be, maybe-true solar story compared to the other sci-fi and crime and superhero stories that you've been hearing in prior episodes. It's about two stubborn people trying to do the right thing and still disagreeing. Ma'am, I'm sorry, but you can't go solar is written by Tor Solar Fred Valenza. John looked at Barbara. She looked like his grandmother. Old, short, stubborn, poor, and alone. She was probably in her 80s, maybe closer to 90. Everything about Barbara was thin. Her hair, her arms, her legs, and her chapped lips were all narrow and pale. But Barbara wasn't starving. She was thin because she was so active, because keeping busy was keeping alive, and at least in her mind, keeping young. As for John, he was a solar sales professional. He knew how to haggle, but he did not want to haggle. He did not need to haggle. It was his honest and professional opinion that Barbara should not be going solar, and that's exactly what he told her. Ma'am, I'm sorry, but you cannot go solar, said John. Yes, I can, said Barbara. No, you can't, insisted John. Do not be rude to me, young man. Yes, I can. The question is, do you want to be my solar installer? She nodded and smiled. So come on, let's haggle. John paused before answering. He didn't need this, but he wasn't going to let this old lady get scammed by less honest salespeople. Believe me, Barbara, I'd love to haggle. I'd live to haggle. And if I were to haggle with you, I'd make sure it was a win-win for both of us. But I'm not going to sell you something that you can't afford or use. Listen here, John. You may think I look like I can't afford a bar of soap, let alone a solar system. But don't judge this old book by its cover. I may be a senior, but I have money and credit. I just haven't spent either. I invested in stocks. As a matter of fact, I bought Apple when it was just a little stock seedling, and now I'm spending that money. So tell me what it's going to cost. I'm going to pay it in cash. Barbara thumped her thin index finger on her thin wood kitchen table. The table shook, and her solid, strong thumps surprised John. I'm glad to hear you can afford it. It's not that I don't think you have the money, Barbara. There are a lot of reasons why homes aren't the right fit for solar. And unfortunately, your home isn't in that category. For instance? Well, in your case, you've got too many trees blocking your east, west, and south roofs. You won't produce that much power if your panels are shaded. Do you want to cut down those trees? Asked John. I'd rather not, but maybe we could trim them back. Couldn't we? Yes, you could, but these are old, tall oaks, Barbara. To trim these back enough, they'd be tall, ugly tree stumps. You might as well chop them down. What about the backyard? Well, your backyard faces north, so you'd get the least sun exposure, so it wouldn't be worth it. But I'd get some light, wouldn't I? Sure, you'd get some reflective light, but the panels won't produce much solar energy, Barbara. For some homes that could work, but not for you. We could put them on some racks in your backyard and face them south, but that would require replacing your vegetable garden. I'm assuming you want to keep the squash, cucumbers, and tomatoes? I'm a squash fan myself. Then I will give you a big bag to go. After we haggle. John almost exploded, but grit his teeth. Then calmly he said, There's no haggling here, Barbara. I'm not going to sell you a solar system that doesn't make financial sense. So what if it doesn't produce much power? I don't use that much electricity anyway. Yeah, I know. That's another thing. Your bill is only around $50 a month. Even if you had an unshaded south-facing roof, your payback would take over 10 years. Plus, I could be wrong about this, but I don't think you'll be able to use the 30% investment tax credit. Usually you have to pay a lot of taxes to make it worthwhile. Maybe cashing out your Apple stocks will make that pencil out. But if not, that's going to make your payback time even worse than 10 years. You might qualify for a solar lease instead of buying, but because of this low solar production, the monthly lease payments will cost you more than you're saving. So that's out. With everything I just told you, you could still buy them, Barbara. But it's probably going to take 20 years or longer to get a payback. So you might not even be alive, is what John wanted to say. But he didn't. Barbara knew the unsaid word, and she didn't care. You let me worry about being paid back, John. There are some things that are more important than making a return on an investment. I'm buying this solar system to help future generations. But you're not, said John. You'll be barely offsetting any carbon. And right now, there's a solar panel shortage. So you'd be better off letting someone else with a bigger carbon footprint go first. The other thing, John, don't you see that I don't care? I want solar on my roof, and I'm willing to pay cash for it. So name your price and let's start haggling. Barbara, let me finish. Your roof is 30 years old. It needs to be replaced before we put the panels on. Can you install a new roof? Yes, that we can help you with. But you still have the trees and or the north-facing roof. And I'm still not finished. Your main electrical panel, your circuit breaker system, it's old and needs to be upgraded first. Your roof, you should probably do that anyway. But again, you want to do good for future generations, pay someone to plant some trees, or donate a solar system to someone else who can't afford it. John, you've been very patient with me, and I appreciate that. But how do you explain the 3 solar quotes that I already have from your competitors? You have 3 quotes. Can you show those to me? Barbara went to a kitchen drawer and pulled out a yellow file folder with printed quotes from 3 solar companies. 2 of them were thick and were comprised of a dozen pages filled with forecasted utility bill graphs that predicted utility rates rising by 10% for the next 25 years. As the years went up, the papers showed that her solar dividend or her solar savings increased over time. One of the companies had used a software to show a picture of what the panels would look like on Barbara's south-facing roof, which was pockmarked with shaded spots from Barbara's trees. In all 3 cases, the solar production and utility rate increase data had been doctored to show that Barbara would receive a payback in 5 to 7 years. That was typical for homes that were ideal for solar, but it was impossible for Barbara's home. None mentioned the roof replacement, tree trimming, or the need for an electrical service panel upgrade. How did you find these installers? John asked. The same way I found you, through the yellow pages. They all promised a discount for senior citizens. So what's your discount, John? Barbara pointed to a thick book on one of her kitchen counters. The worn, finger-stained Yellow Pages book was Barbara's internet. It's how she found businesses in 1950 and in 2022. John stood up and retrieved the book. He turned to the solar section. There were many full-page ads, half-page ads, and quarter-pagers. Several advertised discount for seniors. John's company also had a quarter-page ad. At the bottom it read, 10% AARP discount. Look, I'm glad you got 4 quotes. That's the right thing to do. But you should have also checked out their online reviews on Yelp, Google Reviews, Angie List, and the Better Business Bureau. I don't own a computer, John. I have a cell phone, but I barely use it. I'm a good judge of character. They all seemed like very nice people. One brought me cookies. She baked them herself. Out of all of them, you're the only one that says I can't go solar. Why should I listen to you? If I show you some reviews on my computer, then will you believe me? Maybe. I'll have to see. John took out his company iPad and typed in the name of each solar competitor. The internet reveals all. Each had sales complaints, installation complaints, and service complaints. The best of the 3 had a 2-star rating. The Better Business Bureau gave the companies D or F ratings. John also showed Barbara his company. It had an A review on the BBB site and a 4 or 5-star rating on the review sites like Yelp and Google Reviews and Angie's List. Barbara took a moment. Her hands fell away from the top of the table. Her inner strength had gone, weakened by the knowledge that people had been trying to take advantage of her, and she'd fallen for it.
La 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 la, oh, oh, la 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 la.
All of them were nice. Like you. I know, John said gently, and that hurts me very deeply. But most solar installers in this industry are good people, and there are good quality companies that install quality solar panels. But like any industry that's growing with great incentives right now, there are going to be some bad apples. I'm a good apple. My company's a good apple. Please don't buy solar from me or anyone. Thank you for your honesty, John. I guess I really should learn how to use a computer or a cell phone. I just don't have anyone to teach me about these things. I've been on my own for years now. My husband Harry died 10 years ago. He always wanted us to go solar. For him, it was all about energy independence. We're going to make our own power, he'd say to me, and I could leave the lights on any time. Well, after he died, every time I thought about turning on a light, I thought about Harry, so I didn't want to go solar. But it's been long enough now, and I wanted to make Harry's solar dream come true. The sun hits the panels and you get free electricity? That's like magic. Who wouldn't want that? Yeah, I know that feeling. It is like magic, Barbara. But it's magic that doesn't work great on your house. What we can do is install a new roof or do some more repair work if you have leaks. The other thing to do is to go solar remotely. There's something called community solar. You subscribe to being a part of a nearby solar farm and your utility bill gets credited. I'll help you get set up with that if you want. Yes, please. Barbara brightened, her strength returning. And yes, I'd like your company to replace my roof, if the price is right. Ready to bargain? No, but I'll do my best.
Boom, la 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 la, oh, oh, la 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 la, oh, oh, la 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 la, oh, oh, la 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 la.
Don't you love Barbara and John's stubbornness for both trying to do the right thing? I've actually heard a lot of true stories about solar salespeople doing the right thing and telling the homeowner that their home isn't right for solar. I've also heard about the bad solar apples who will push a sale on people that shouldn't go solar. Overall, the solar industry has a great ethical reputation, and I want it to stay that way. So if you're new to solar or just thinking about going solar, here are some good-to-know home solar shopping tips. Number 1, the best way to go solar is through a friend who's gone solar. So ask around. They've been through the solar sales and installation process, so they'll tell you how their installer did. At worst, they'll have some personal lessons learned. At best, you'll get a quote from a quality installer that your neighbor or friend already trusts. Number 2, if you don't have a friend who's already on solar, and even if you do, the internet really does reveal all. Check the show notes for some more tips. And by the way, if you haven't noticed, every episode now has true solar takeaways. These are some of the solar tips that I might have mentioned in the episode. Ma'am, I'm sorry, but You Can't Go Solar was written and read by me, Tor Solarfred Valenza. If this episode was entertaining or helpful, please like, subscribe, and leave a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. It really does help others to find, enjoy, and hopefully learn something. Probably True Solar Stories is a production of Unthinking Solar, PR, and Communications. Be bold for solar, stand out, and educate. See you next time.